We are starting episode 27 at Lazy Susan's Diner, where they have food. Well, I sure hope they do. We of course also have a hefty bag of MSG on the shelf, which is necessary to give those pancakes that little pinch of umami flavor. Besides McGucket being able to move around like he's some kind of human pretzel, he also possesses the ability to make his body paper thin, otherwise we would have been able to see him under that table. When Lazy Susan tries to call the police after witnessing the little gnomes trying to steal her pie, we get the first hint of what this episode is actually about, with the symbol on the telephone, which is the symbol for the Society of the Blind Eye. And I know we just started into the episode, but we already got a bit of a continuity error going on. In the shot where she stumbles into the phone, we can see that the front of it is oriented to the parking lot of the diner. She then dials the number and steps to the side of it, and in the shot from the tree line, where she's suddenly standing in front of the phone again, the phone is also not facing the parking lot anymore. So yeah, we're starting off the episode with a very ominous intro and Lazy Susan getting kidnapped. After the intro song, we're at the mystery shack where Dipper once again tries to find out who the author might be. And no, sadly, in this shot, there's not really anything interesting on the board as far as I can see, just a few people from town and a lot of Fs. Well, shortly after Mabel comes barging in, disturbing this intense thought process, by showing Dipper a message in a bottle from Mermando, who tells her that he's getting engaged to a manatee princess. But let's focus on the important part. Sound the alarm! We have a new sweater! At least probably, maybe I just missed it in past episodes. You'll probably remind me in the comments anyways if I did. The message in the bottle has a purpose though. It's a setup for Mabel's side plot for this episode, which is to forget her summer romances. And you might not believe it, but through intense investigations and days of work, and maybe a little name card in the broken laptop, they connect McGucket to the author. And yes, we're talking about the same McGucket who was hanging from the underside of a table like a piece of gum in the intro sequence. And while they're doing the whole connecting spiel on the board, everything seems to fit, but the 6-finger part, that I can't get behind. The only two real possibilities would be for him to only have 6 fingers on one hand and hide them in the cast, or for him to have cut off his 6th finger from the one hand and now he's hiding that wound with the cast. Now we're switching scenes down to the shop where Wendy is hating on a new song that's on the radio, also something that will gain more significance later. Shortly after, the twins storm in and take Sus and Wendy to see McGucket. And when we arrive at the scrapyard, we can see that 2 of Wendy's friends combined their 2 brain cells to write McSucket on his house. A house with a dead possum in a chair on the roof, so it doesn't really matter because it can't get much uglier anyways. When the twins confront McGucket about what they found out, we can see a little newspaper clipping in the back with McGucket's son on it. And the thought I had when I saw this was why his son never told him about his past. And the only possible explanation that I came to is that the son was either too young to remember or that McGucket left his family at some point. That way the son basically wouldn't have had the chance to know what his dad was like before he got this way. All of that didn't really matter though, because when he sees the symbol of the Society of the Blind Eye, he suddenly remembers snippets of his past. And those snippets lead them to start their investigation at the History Museum. And if I didn't mention it before, I'll do it now. I probably did though. Sue's license plate says fixing it, which, you know, it's because he's fixing stuff. And by the way, that's also his PC password. Something else randomly that came to my head is that you probably should be able to see McGucket's giant head through the back window, but you can't. And I didn't even notice at first, but when I was reading up on something else on the wiki, I saw that it mentioned that the agents were visible for a split second when Wendy throws the city out of the car. Shortly after arriving at the museum, they chase a figure into the eye room. There's a pretty normal room. It's basically just a bunch of eyeballs, except one that looks awfully similar to a Pokeball. I also spotted one of the most detrimental animation errors so far. First there are 4 and then there are 5 eyeballs in the bottle over the fireplace, which throws the whole show into chaos. And this stone tablet also wasn't there before. Oh, and don't worry, we've got more. The place where McGucket is standing now wasn't even accessible before, and the poster in the entrance also moved here. And I'm also pretty sure that there's no way to make a secret switch even more obvious than this one. The chanting that the group hears after they move down the staircase actually has a meaning. The chant is Annuit coeptis novus ordo seclorum, which roughly translates to God has favored our undertaking for the first part, and the second part is a new order of the ages. So yeah, it's pretty obvious that they got some real culture going on here. This phrase is also written on the $1 bill. And all of this is according to the wiki because I couldn't understand anything while they were chanting it. There's also something else that they are chanting in between the chants that are just translated, but that chant isn't mentioned on the wiki as far as I could find, and I wasn't able to hear it either, so I guess that part stays a mystery. Of course, you're welcome to tell me the translation in the comments if you know it. So right after all the chanting, Susan is getting Men in Black flashy thingied. And before using the memory eraser, all of them pull their hoods shut, except for the main dude who apparently doesn't need to do that. Conveniently, all of the hoods opened up automatically 1 second afterwards, even though nobody moved a muscle. Something that's a bit odd is that they all look alike, like they have the same height, same width, like they are all clones of each other, even though later on we can see that everyone does look different in their robe, so I don't know why they didn't look different before. Maybe to keep the mystique. This, by the way, is also the first episode where we get to know the full name of Susan. She's called Susan Wentworth. While they are hiding from the cult, we get to see Susan's real strength when he's holding up Dipper like a baby, which would probably mean that he's holding roughly like 50 kilos, just like that, without looking strained in the slightest. So the reason why they are hiding in the first place is because they started to chase Susan's cap, who got sucked up by one of the suction tubes. And I suppose it's a good thing that the cap decided to wait on them while they were hiding from the cult and then continued further down the tube. Very convenient. And after the three have arrived in the room with all the memories, we hop back to Mabel and Wendy still in the room with the forget thingy majiggy gun. There's not all that much going on in the scene except for some funny markings on the pillars on the side of the stairs, including but not limited to the Pythagorean theorem, the probably Master Sword or some other legendary sword, a pyramid with a turned top, which has always been a symbol in the show, the triangle, and the whole shebang about secret societies and stuff like that. And then we've got something that looks very similar to the Triforce, and also a little sheriff's badge. We've also got a little animation error in this scene. When Mabel is holding the forgetting ray, and she moves it up and down, you can see that the glass tube, or the shielding, whatever you want to call it, changes from being in front of the ray to being behind the ray, which definitely doesn't look like it was intended. Now Mabel tries to coerce Wendy into using the ray to forget the song Straight Blanching that she has stuck in her head. But before we resolve all of this, we swap back to the other group, still in the room with the memories. While Dipper's investigating Robbie's memory tube, we can see a few other ones in the background. We've got Mrs. Gleeful, Pacifica, and we've got someone whose first name starts with an S and whose last name either ends in R-M-E-R or B-M-E-R. Later on in the scene, we've also got some additional ones besides McGucket's. His memory tube, along with a few others, are on a podium, which suggests that they are more significant than the other ones strewn around. Beside him are Preston Northwest and someone that we've never seen in the show before, Jeffrey Cannock. Back to Wendy and Mabel, where you can see that Mabel inputs summer romance into the eraser ray. Weirdly though, without even moving her hand. Now we also get to meet Blind Ivan, yes, very original, and get to hear the backstory of the society. They were founded to erase the memories that would plague or confuse the other townfolk. The tattoo on Ivan's head resembles the one that we already saw in the physical journal. The ladies, of course, included. After they get tied up, they get saved by Chad McGucket and they start to fight the cult with a banjo and some other mining equipment. And this whole fight scene ends with McGucket taking multiple shots from the Forgetinator to shield Dipper from being hit. So he finally got his well-deserved redemption arc. And the last thing he says before knocking out Ivan is probably, at least in my opinion, one of the saddest lines throughout the whole show, even though it's kind of treated as somewhat of a throwaway line. McGucket says, "You can't break what's already broken." And I think this line is way more powerful than most of the other stuff shown or said about McGucket's past, because it emphasizes how much of a broken man McGucket actually is and that he is aware of that fact. There are just very few lines in this show that have such a strong characterization as this one. Well, after they are done fighting the cult, they tie everyone up except Toby Determined, who is either tied up behind the pillar or he got his memory erased off screen, because he is walking out of the museum later on when they let everyone go. When we arrive at that scene, Ivan also doesn't have butts written on his forehead anymore, which Mabel did with a marker while they were tied up. Oh, and something that's a bit more obvious is that he plays the rhythm for the children's song Bingo on a banjo while he's leaving.
Cheers! Toot toot is my name.
And yes, of course, I didn't forget about McGucket's memories. The first interesting information that we get from his memories is his full name, Littleford Hadron McGucket. Hadron like the Hadron Collider. We also find out that he's the assistant of the author and that he built the flashy thingy ray to forget everything that happened in the time of him being the assistant of the author. In the background on the probability of failure chart, he has a picture of the portal, which now confirms that he was involved in that project as well. On day 74, we can clearly see that he wrote "Help me" on the wall in the background, which suggests that he had some clear moments in all of this mess where he noticed what was happening to him. The cryptic stuff he says in the last scene was encoded using the @bash cipher, which works by mapping the normal alphabet to the reverse, meaning A becomes Z, B becomes Y, C becomes X, and so on and so forth. So the decoded phrase would be Bill Cipher Triangle, meaning even though he tried to forget, in the end he couldn't get rid of the memory of Bill Cipher, no matter how hard he tried. But of course I don't want to end this episode on a negative note. McGucket wants to start remembering, and everyone else learned that keeping memories is pretty important, even if they are bad ones. But that's not really all, because we're closing off the episode with a cliffhanger of Stan still working on the portal. So I hope all of you enjoyed this episode of Mysteries of Gravity Falls. I know it took a while to get all of this done, I'm sorry for that. I'm not going to go into too much detail about it, just that it was a bit chaotic over the past few months, and I'm trying to get back into my regular schedule, so from now on the videos should be coming every second week, at least the Gravity Falls videos. So I hope all of you have an amazing rest of your day, and I will see you in the next episode of Mysteries of Gravity Falls. Until then, see ya!